This is the 29th meeting of the Conference of Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. It's the main stage where international negotiations take place to find solutions to the climate crisis. I spoke with Pradeepa Bolanat, a climate economist who serves as part of Guyana's delegation here in Baku. We spoke about how Guyana has been able to single-handedly find $1 billion that the world is now chasing to help developing countries. So, Pradeepa, this is called the Finance Call. Why has it taken so long for the world to be able to mobilize financing for developing countries? You've been in the negotiating room for a couple of years. Tell me, what's the holdup?
So in many ways, the multi-year process has spanned several years over the last, I would say, decade and a half. Every year there is a focus on a new area that is going to move the discussions on climate forward. This year, the discussions at the Conference of Parties of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change is focused on finance and climate adaptation, as well as finance and climate mitigation. And we're hoping for some positive outcomes, at least moving the discussion to the next stage at the end of the 2 weeks negotiation session.
Why has it taken so long?
In a way, the process of the UN discussions and decision-making framework requires for there to be consensus. So all parties have to agree. The developing countries have to agree, the developed countries have to agree, and the entire UN system is framed in such a way that those discussions have to go through an iterative process. So in many ways, consensus building is time-consuming. But what we've also seen evolve over the last maybe 4 years is that the politics of various countries also influence the way things happen. So changes in government, also changes in the priorities that are impacted by changes in government end up influencing, and sometimes there is a lack of progress, or even in some cases longer time being taken for those decisions to be reached.
But developing countries do need the money.
Developing countries really need this, and this is needed for not just now, but for many years ago. What we've seen within our region is that there is an increasing level of loss and damage. There is an increasing level of activities that impact on livelihoods and lives, not only within small island developing states, but also countries, for example, within the Amazon region. We see forest fires raging at an unprecedented pace. And all of that impact, climate impact, needs finances to help communities that depend on the forest, governments that have to protect the forest, to be able to have the financial resources to make those gains. And for those reasons, the time to act really is now, and we're looking for that action at this COP.
Guyana has decided that it will sort of go its own way and try to get financing. How did that come about?
So in many ways, we are a big supporter of the UNFCCC process, as we are a big supporter of regional processes as well that take place within CARICOM, as well as within other areas that we've worked in terms of working with the World Bank, with the IDB. What all of that has taught us is that domestic action really is important. As we wait for these regional and international processes, including this UN process, to take discussion to finalization, Guyana has not stood still to wait for that to come to a conclusion, even though we are an active participant in that process. So what Guyana has done is to shape our model in such a way that we are in keeping with the best practices of the UN, but we have built out our climate finance model to start with a results for performance mechanism under the Guyana-Norway agreement, where Guyana earned $227 million over a period of 5 years, 2010 to 2015. And more recently, we've been engaged in the forest carbon credits market, where we have sold to a minimum of $750 million for our carbon credits. And that has seen a lot of finances come to Guyana to fund the same priorities that I made mention of earlier: adaptation priorities, mitigation priorities. To date, on that contract of $750 million, we've already received $237.5 million, of which 2 disbursements of $22.5 million for last year, 2023, and $22.5 million for 2024 have gone directly to Amerindian villages for the implementation of actions for climate adaptation and mitigation.
And you take the lead on the carbon market issue. There's a lot more money that Guyana can earn from it.
Indeed, I believe we're just at the starting point of engaging in the markets. Back in 2009, under our first low carbon development strategy, we outlined a three-phase model, starting with a bilateral cooperation, which I believe was very successful. And then our second phase, which we're in right now, is engaging in the voluntary carbon market. We have only sold a third of our carbon credits. We have 2/3 more to sell. And our third phase is on the compliance market, which moves more towards a UN regulatory kind of system. Guyana is fortunate that we've been able to embark on that journey earlier than even we thought we would have been able to. With our issuance of our 2021 Art Trees credits, our forest carbon credits earlier this year, that is compliant for the sale and is eligible for the sale in the aviation market. The aviation market is one example of a compliance market. So we've been able to bridge that gap between the voluntary and the compliance market already, even earlier than we had wanted. So our model in Guyana is to show that early action is possible. And working within the UN framework, we can build out some of these models to bring to bear within the UN process to show how it actually could be done in a practical and operational sense. So whilst these discussions are ongoing, we've been showing that early work could actually make a move to not only showing technical progress, but also acquisition of financing that would go towards sustainable livelihoods and improving lives at the village level, at the national level.
Yeah, so for the next couple of days, what are you hoping will come out of these discussions here in Baku?
So in a sense, the discussions surround three main aspects. It's around climate adaptation. Many countries in the Caribbean region have to adapt to climate change. Guyana is one of those countries as well, being below sea level. We're hoping that the developed countries will not only commit and pledge, but would actually make real on those commitments and fulfill those pledges in accelerating the capitalization of the Adaptation Fund and the Loss and Damage Fund. We've seen some of that start at COP28 in Dubai, but that needs a lot more work to catch up with how much really is required to meet the global needs for adaptation. Work also has to be done on the mitigation front. So mitigating against the impact of climate change, helping to define modalities that will help countries to protect forests, ensure that valuable resources within the ocean space are protected, and having modalities so that those are properly monitored and reported on. And the third is what is probably of most importance for this COP is in finance. So working out modalities for the carbon markets, accelerating that to a stage where it goes beyond just the technicalities and looking at how do we actually implement this so that credits become available for sale and those monies start to come back. How would those financial modalities work? How would carbon registries be set up? And a lot of those discussions are at the cusp of being finalized. Were those to be finalized or even advanced at this COP, I say we would be in good stead for COP30, which is scheduled for Belém in Brazil, where those financing could actually start to flow. In Guyana, we are hoping to show at the COP here, COP29, that it is possible. Even though some of these technical aspects seem difficult and complex and multi-party, it is not something that can be achieved. And if Guyana could achieve it, we strongly believe other forest countries and other developing countries in the world could also do the same.
So yes, Guyana's experience has shown the financial viability of forest conservation. The country has maintained its forests, sucking in the harmful carbon dioxide that the rest of the world emits, in the process providing a vital service to the planet. In turn, it has shown how it can earn money by doing so. So as this climate summit gets underway, we will have to wait and see if the world can mobilize resources to help the developing world combat the climate crisis, or if they can copy Guyana's example and go it all alone in raising money. Reporting for the newsroom, I'm Neil Marks in Baku.